extra.
I think also
And you
Give up 10 and just daily.
just make sure that people have the actual number.
Oh, that sounds glorious.
The green one has.
It is the green one. That's
Right.
right. Yeah.
And I can
Nothing has changed. So then
So good.
I'm telling you,
you're good.
it's cheap and you go around England.
Yeah. Like, I think I did this PC report because I'm like, it's something I'm doing because I work out daily. Like I run, I do my Peloton, like I do all that stuff. But I'm like, it's something I'm doing wrong. But I don't know if it's a pushing or a pulling motion.
You are totally
Yeah. Oh.
no, you are
It's almost been 10 years since
That's Jamie.
critics and salutations.
Oh, yeah, just all out.
Because usually you're,
That seems like a good idea.
I went alone.
Really? So maybe I'll start there. Then if I have to like progress to my
Because they'll do a whole like
Right, right.
She's good, but she's 300
That's nice.
Nothing is worse than in your back, like in your neck, and you feel like you can't breathe.
Funny
Yeah. Like, just stay home, ride the tractor.
It's like,
I don't think we have any updates. But it is a little chilly. Yeah. And we're sometimes it's cold. Right, so. Sure, creative for $25.
yeah, exactly. Well, it appears that everybody's gathered. I would like to call the 15th regular meeting of the Board of Directors of SAD 52 to order. And if Jamie could lead us in the pledge, I think the flag is hiding.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So our first order of business is our budget work session. And 2.1.1 indicates that it's a revisit list for warrant articles 4, 5, 6, 7, and 18. If I recall correctly, there were no items that were placed on the revisit list, or there was any indication that folks wish to revisit anything from those warrant articles. So that brings us to 2.1.2, and I would entertain a motion for adoption of the final proposed FY24 budget. Gabby, correct me if I'm wrong, the figure that should be indicated in that motion is 32,494,266.
Sorry, I wasn't ready for that. 32,494,266.
Thank you. Do we have a second for that?
I'm sorry, Betsy. It's actually, we have cents involved there. That was a rounding. So it is not on these sheets.
because it wasn't.
But that's,
Price goes out. It's like 295.94 revenue. Are you that precise, or we're good with it?
if we have the numbers, certainly being precise is
Yep,
good. But
actually we do. 32,494, $265.96.
So Jessica made the motion. We have a second on that.
I'll second.
Second, Crystal. And discussion. Board members who would like to discuss? Crystal?
Not really a discussion, but thank you so much for all the hard work that you guys have put into this with all the changes. I think it's a good budget. I think that there's no, to quote Danielle, superfluous from last night, things in the budget. And I just appreciate all your hard work.
Any board members?
Yeah, I will second what you said as well. You know, when previous years to have, just to compare, this is very thorough. And, you know, I can see where things really are coming from. So as a community member, a retired person, I feel like this is very helpful, and I really appreciate the communication of putting it out there online. I think that that's really important. The more transparent we can be, because this is a lot of money, and we know what happened in the past. So I really feel like this is a real honest effort as far as getting it out there. So thank you.
Other board members?
So I think the public should know that, or recognize perhaps is a better way to describe it, that the budget that they approved last year, this budget is less than 8% higher than that. If you're looking at a real rate of inflation that's 8% or higher, this is a pretty good budget. It's not as low as anybody would like, but that's just the reality of things. So I extend my thanks as well to the team.
Other comments or board members? I would just echo the same. There's a tremendous amount of work that goes into this process, and I think, or I hope anyways, that folks heard the concerns this last year about the transparency and the availability of information, and that was certainly an improvement, so thank you for all that work. If there's no other discussion on this, we'll take a vote. All those in favor? Unanimous? And Teresa, the number was 32,494,265.
Six.
Yeah, that's what she said. 265.
Sorry, yeah, you're good, sorry. So
That helped.
she's going to check.
Thank you.
It will be quadruple checked.
So the next step in 2.1.3 is a step that we must complete because of statute. You'll hear a list of created and eliminated programs. This is not a different sort of action that we're taking at this point. These are things that are embedded in the budget that board members just approved. But we do need to have indication in the form of motions around those to make it all official. So I would look to my right, because I think that we have cheat sheets on this to make sure
Get
we get.
comfortable, there's a lot here. So the first one, I would make a motion for approval of the creation of the following positions in regular education, warrant article 1. Dean of Students at Leavitt Area High School, Social Studies / Science Teacher at Tripp Middle School, Regular Education Ed Tech 3 at Tripp Middle School, Primary Teacher at Turner Primary School.
Do we have a second on those? Anthony? Any discussion on these? No? All those in favor? Unanimous. Moves us to our next one.
I have another motion. I motion for approval of the elimination of the following positions from regular education, warrant Article 1. English teacher at Leavitt Area High School, world language teacher at Leavitt Area High School, literacy lab teacher at Tripp Middle School.
We have a second on that one? Joe? Any discussion on these? No? All those in favor? Let's do our next.
Motion for approval of the creation of the following positions in special education, warrant Article 2. Special education teacher at Turner Primary School, 3 Ed Tech 2 positions, 3 special education school-based secretary positions.
We have a second on that one. Discussion on these? No? All those in favor?
Motion to approve the elimination of the following positions from special education, warrant Article 2, 3 special education Ed Tech 1 positions.
We have a second for that one. Jamie? Discussion on this one? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Approval of the creation of the following position in other instruction, warrant Article 4, unified bocce coach stipend.
We have a second for this one. Discussion on this. Seeing none, all those in favor? Unanimous. Jessica?
Approval of the elimination of the following position from school administration, warrant Article 7, Dean of Students, Administrator at Leavitt Area High School.
We have a second on that one. Crystal. Discussion on this one. Seeing none, all those in favor? Jessica?
Approval of the creation of the following position in transportation, warrant Article 8, Transportation Director.
We have a second for this one. Joe? Discussion?
Jamie might have beat me,
I'll give it to you.
This,
Joe? Joe? Yeah, Joe.
discussion on this one? Seeing none, all those in favor? Unanimous. Jessica?
Approval of the elimination of the following position from transportation, warrant Article 8, Transportation Supervisor.
Second on this one. Discussion on this one. Seeing none, all those in favor? Unanimous. Jessica?
Approval of the creation of the following position in facilities maintenance, warrant Article 9, Facilities Director, Maintenance Worker 2.
Second on this one. Joe? Discussion on this one. Seeing none, all those in favor? Unanimous. Jessica?
Approval of the elimination of the following position from facilities maintenance, warrant Article 9, Maintenance Worker 1.
Second on this one. Jamie? Discussion on this one. Seeing none, all those in favor? Unanimous. Jessica?
Approval of the elimination of the following position from transportation, warrant Article 8, and facilities maintenance, Article 9, Facilities Transportation Director.
We have a second on this one. Discussion on this one. Seeing none, all those in favor? Unanimous. Jessica?
Approval of the creation of the following positions in food service, warrant Article 14, 3 food service specialists.
Second on this one? Jamie? That was fast. That was really fast. That's discussion on this one? Seeing none, all those in favor? Unanimous. Jessica?
Last one. Approval of the elimination of the following positions from food service, warrant Article 14, 3 food service assistants.
Second on this one? discussion on this one? Seeing none, all those in favor? And that brings us to the conclusion of that list, and that takes care of 2.1.3. 2.1.4 is to call and approve the warrants for district budget meeting, district budget validation referendum, and authorization of the notice of amounts adopted. And I think we have that in our packet, and if folks are recalling years past, we have done those three actions as separate things before. Superintendent Med did clarify with the folks at Drummond Woodson that, in fact, we can be more efficient than reading through each of those separately and do all three at once. Do we have somebody interested in making that motion?
Let me just read that.
Yes.
Okay.
Jessica.
So moved. To call and approve warrant articles for district budget meeting, district budget validation referendum, and authorization of the notice of amounts adopted.
We have a second on that? Crystal, there's lots of hands up all at the same time. Crystal, on that one. Any discussion on this one? And this, again, this is the technical step that we need to make to authorize those next votes to happen. All those in favor? Unanimous?
Who seconded, I'm sorry?
Crystal, thank you.
So 2.1.5 is terribly exciting for everybody who's actually in attendance because it involves board members signing all the required budget documents. So it's a fun stack and believe me, we have inquired as to whether we could do this at another time. We used to be able to, we cannot do that. So unfortunately, we need to spend a few minutes here and sign these documents. These will include the documents that will be posted at the towns and are fabulously official. So as you sign, if you kind of sign in the same spot.
Yeah, I think that was-
Yes, you have to sign
But-
it.
The same.
So, do we want to establish who's signing where then? Because you're starting in some.
Then we should go in the same order.
Okay.
So
I'll come to you.
you're going first. So you have to sign all of these at the exact same place. So you're gonna go first. Same here.
Have a pad.
Am I giving the children one? What's that?
Let me know.
This is the one article. Okay.
You only have those two, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So this is, we have one for each town.
Do I need to take?
You're at the first line there. This is the warrant and notice of election calling. And this one is for,
And this was Turner.
no, that's because a person who is not registered as a voter cannot vote in the election. Given under, oh, no, because this is today. You're signing it
Okay.
internally.
Good catch.
So that goes that way.
Who's here?
That together.
Is that how many?
This one is for leaves.
That's, yes.
And this is for these are not created like activity.
Could be exact.
34 million.
It's a change.
Some really nice people there. Couple vacation. So you,
Same place on both documents. So you like these? You're gonna get two documents and you're signing exactly the same place on both documents.
Yeah.
And so I have to.
So you just need to take that.
So this is the final stop on that one. And this is all the budget.
No, I brought this one. You're gonna need that.
There used to be like these little red sticky arrows. They like fall off.
Or just
Left order.
Well, and there's never been a something on the lines before either.
Oh,
Always
the
like-
lawyer did it right then. The Drummond Woodson gave us all the documents. You can take that worry after play. Well, these documents, that's right. Yes, you're right. There's our weekends, that talks about off to Tom. Here,
We've been waiting for the special.
I have an extra.
Wow. The other two are right You signed 5 times. Actually, you signed 7 and 6 and checks in there. Here's.
All right, so we are completed with our signatures. Thanks, everybody, on that. 2.2 in here is just a reminder that the next board meeting will be April 13th at 6:30 in the cafeteria at Levitt Area High School. I think it probably would be perhaps helpful for folks. So the district budget vote is May 4th, and that's at the high school in the auditorium. And then the further validation vote is the 18th. In each of our towns, polling places are typically 1 to 7. So that brings us to item 3, and that is to act on the minutes of March 30th. Any errors or omissions noted in those?
Well, under 6.1, I did ask for the minutes to reflect that I appealed from the decision of the chair. I think that should be added. So I move that we add that I appealed from the decision of the chair on the item.
Do we have a second? Okay. Discussion on the motion?
I'm not so sure that raises to the level of need to be, I don't think our minutes typically have that level of detail. I don't think it's an important point, frankly.
Other discussion on this? Anything?
Well, I think that it deals with the legality of the decision-making, and so I think that that is important.
Other discussion?
Can you remind me what you, oh,
Jamie?
Can you remind me of the situation, because I actually didn't hear what you initially said, so can you speak up a little bit? What exactly we're voting on?
Yeah, if you could just restate
Okay.
the motion.
So I move that 6.1 on the agenda, the first paragraph, have a sentence added at the end, that I appealed from the decision of the chair regarding the vote.
Other discussion? On the motion?
This is my memory, and maybe my recollection is that there was an issue of being a majority vote versus a 2/3 vote, and that was the ultimate discrepancy between the chair and yourself. Am I categorizing that correctly? That was the root discrepancy.
But it was a question of whether or not the motion passed. So I contend that the motion should have passed.
Other discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Those opposed? Who's counting?
Can the,
No, 3 would have been in favor of.
oh, sorry. That's what I
okay.
meant, that's what I
So
meant.
it was Anthony, Tammy, and Kyle.
And the others opposed. So the motion fails. Any other errors or omissions? None? See none, we accept them under general consent.
I will not vote in favor of accepting the minutes.
So let's take a vote as a show of hands, then, as far as approving the minutes. All those in favor of approving the minutes? Those opposed? 2 opposed? That brings us to public comment. As has been our practice, I will read the public comment policy, so folks are all on the same page on this. The board will designate a portion of its agenda as an opportunity for public participation. During the time allotted for public participation, members of the public may speak on any subject directly related to the operations of the schools, except for personal matters or complaints concerning specific employees or students, which shall be addressed through established policies and procedures. Members of the public may address the board within the guidelines provided in this policy. The chair shall be responsible for maintaining proper order and compliance with these guidelines. The following guidelines shall apply to public participation at board meetings. Citizens and employees in the school unit are welcome to participate as provided in this policy. Others may be recognized to speak at the chair's discretion. Individual employees and/or employee groups will not be permitted to discuss matters for which complaint or grievance procedures are provided. The chair may limit the time allotted for comments on a particular topic, as well as the time each individual may speak, and that's 3 minutes currently. In the event of a sizable audience, the chair may require persons interested in speaking to sign up so they may be called on in a fair and efficient manner. During the time set aside for public participation, the chair will be responsible for recognizing all speakers, who must identify themselves as they begin talking. Speakers are not permitted to share gossip, make defamatory comments, or use abusive or vulgar language. So I'm pausing on that one because I would like to feel that this policy not only covers those 3 minutes, but how folks might elect to behave after the conclusion of their remarks. So I would certainly urge everyone to maintain some sense of composure as they return to their seats. All speakers are to address the chair and direct questions or comments to particular board members or the superintendent only with approval of the chair. Requests for information or concerns that require further research may be referred to the superintendent to be addressed at a later time. Members of the board and superintendent may ask questions of any person who addresses the board, but are expected to refrain from arguing or debating issues. Questions must be addressed through the chair. No complaints or allegations will be allowed at board meetings concerning any person employed by the school system or against particular students. Personal matters or complaints concerning student or staff issues will not be considered in a public meeting, but will be referred through established policies and procedures. In order to make efficient use of meeting time, the board discourages duplication or repetition of comments to the board. The board requests that groups or organizations be represented by designated spokespersons. The chair has the authority to stop any presentation that violates these guidelines or the privacy rights of others. Persons who disrupt the meeting may be asked to leave, and the chair may request law enforcement assistance as necessary to restore order. Do we have folks who are interested in speaking?
Crystal Nicholas from Green. What can we learn from the failure of the board to support citizen-led policies that uphold the Constitution and embrace medical freedom? What can we learn from the realization that neither medical professionals nor institutions in our own community want you to have any kind of control over your child's health? The experts are simply unable to give themselves enough credit for being supremely qualified to determine how much health your child is allowed to have. The medical, legal, industrial complex works in lockstep with those advisory organizations to bar parents and stakeholders to ever affect change through proposed policy. And here we are, still in a state of emergency, just 3 years to flatten the curve. All of us, but especially our children, described as vehicles of spread, all of us are just pre-symptomatic pawns of the next pandemic sponsored by Big Pharma. And we haven't a shred of policy to cover our exposed constitutional vulnerability. And we have but an ounce of compassion and support within this board. Only one on the board, and a few in this room, can stand up for the injured children. Only one and those few are brave enough to risk being decried as deranged by a bevy of intelligentsia. You'd have to be of sound courage to brave medical sycophants with their intellectual rigor. If there is a medical professional who has never heard of a mask injury, it would behoove them to research and collect data on such an unheard of phenomenon. Wouldn't that be of scientific value? Some critics fail to read the policies of supporting documents. Allowing for freer interpretation, the policy defined medical devices for what they are not, and the documents provided a link to the FDA.gov site. Apparently, this soul is unbothered by the fact that MSAD 52 policies define neither medication nor immunization. Another found fault with a policy protecting the right of children to breathe unhindered by disingenuously criticizing the supposed inability to accommodate first aid in emergency. Yet the first page of policy states exactly this scenario. These errors in critical thinking do not exactly further our trust in medical professionals. Despite the support of only one member, I can confidently say that these policies were a success. They revealed that uppity parents are utterly unwelcome to effect change through proposed policy, despite policy stating the opposite. Should they dare to propose policy, paid advisors and legal guns shoot it down not with the law, but with the fact that it didn't come from them. The lack of support for these policies demonstrated the lack of support for not only medical freedom, but constitutional rights as well as human rights. Shame on those who do not support policies that address the causes and sought to redress harm done to children. May you meet with more compassion than you are prepared to give.
Do other folks that are interested in speaking?
Jimmy Childs. There were students sitting in a circle around the table. There's a goldfish in a bowl in the middle. The law professor walks in, says, if you move your hands or even lift out of your seat, you're getting a fail for the semester. He takes the fish out and slaps it down on the table and walks out. They just sat there. One thought, I can't risk it. Another thought, who's gonna move first? Minutes felt like hours, nobody moved. Another thought, I worked too hard, I'm almost there. It can't be me. If not me, then who? The fish lay about lifeless. As they all just sat there witnessing what felt like an injustice, as the fish is barely alive, poor fish can't help himself when living in a bowl. You depend on others to care for you. Then Haley jumps up, says, I can't take it. Grabs the fish, throws it in the bowl. Law professor runs in and says, look what the world has done to you. It's time that people speak up. There's sickness going on, you took out a book. I don't know if I should thank you or you guys should thank me for that. But if I weren't here standing up, you guys would just sit there and let these books stay in your school. I'm helping this school from maybe facing a lawsuit or a child getting injured by them books that you guys took out because I stood up. And you know what? People should feel ashamed of themselves. They really should. This is sick. I'm a taxpayer, I'm a stakeholder. I asked the board chair if anybody's made any complaints about me or any emails or anything. She said no. The superintendent said no. So I don't know what this is, talking about things, people saying things, because everybody said that I never complained and we've got too many complaints about me. So.
Are there other folks interested in speaking? Yes. Make sure to introduce yourself.
Yeah. Hi, my name is Isaiah Townsend. I'm a junior at Leavitt Area High School. I'm here today to talk about some of the books that are available in the Leavitt Library. As a person from the LGBTQ+ community, I find some of these books very disgusting. In the book, This Book is Gay, there's a bullet point that lists on how to properly give a handjob and how to properly massage your husband's anus. Sexual activity seems to be a huge topic in these books. And while being sexually active is a part in all style relationships, that is not all that takes place. Homosexual relationships aren't about sucking dick and having anal sex. Growing up questioning if you are part of the community is a very confusing time, especially if you have thoughts at a young age. If you truly wanted to help these students who are confused with their own identity, why not talk about the parts throughout the first stages of a relationship? There are multiple things that could be talked about that go on as growing up as someone who's questioning being a part of the community. For example, exploring in different ways of self-exploration through makeup, clothing, etc. Everyone's experience is different. No one is perfect, but finding something that makes not just you but others comfortable can be hard at times. I'm here today as someone who isn't against there being books about the LGBT community. I'm just against the way that they went about the books. I'm not here to yell or call any of you names. I just think the way that we all went about this isn't going to help any kids with finding their sexual identity.
Do you have other folks that are interested in speaking?
Thank you. Although I just got here.
Please make sure to introduce yourself.
Benjamin Simpson. Although I live in Auburn, I was a class of 11, 2019. And the topic of the banned book, specifically in the book Boys Aren't Blue, I'm aware there is a rather explicit topic that is talked about in one of the chapters of the book in the Memoir Manifesto. And however, I would like to preface that in the beginning of the book, the author does preface that some of these books, chapters in the manifesto are explicit and that they should be taught or taken in a way that should be educational and to motivate people to not to specifically understand your abusers, but to hold them accountable. And personally, as somebody who has been in similar scenarios such as that author, seeing that explicit scene written about was cathartic for me personally. And for that book, I would like to have it stay in the public school system for that reason. I also, apologies, I had one more moment to add something else on. Oh yes, thank you for the LAHS new lights in the theater. It's really awesome to see that. I got to go to one of the one-act rehearsals. Super awesome to the kids who are proud of themselves, and I'm hoping to stop by next week because they have some days off to see how the spring rehearsal's going. I know most of the kids from one acts last year, and I was a student of the teachers there as well, and I just happy to feel welcome that while I was at Leavitt, I felt welcome, particularly when our senior year of high school, we have lunch with the principal. Case in point, Evan Shaw, and the one day that I had lunch with him was the day I decided to dress feminine in a dress and wear makeup and all of that. Partially as a joke, but for some students, that can be a serious matter for them in terms of expressing their gender that way. That is apart from their sex or given gender to them. And Mr. Shaw, I remember him smiling at me, and we had a good lunch. There was no judgment present, and I think that's what I wanted to talk about. So thank you for your time.
Mike Hathaway from Turner. Quickly like to thank the board and our district leaders for their work on this budget. It was a difficult one, and for you guys to put together something so reasonable fiscally that meets the needs of the students and the people that work here is quite impressive. I'll also just share that looking up right now at the people leading our district gives me some hope I haven't had in the past. It's the best team that I've seen quite in a while, ready to lead us forward. My hope is that sometime the focus of the Curriculum Policy Committee can shift and focus a little bit on curriculum. We seem to be hyper-focused on policies and less focused on what our kids are actually learning. Teresa is undertaking a huge task in starting this process as we look again at actually trying to streamline the K-12 curriculum in all of our content areas so we have a definite plan on what, when, and how we're going to teach things. Our administration before this current one has never been actually able to follow through on that. As a lifelong resident of this place, a parent of 3 kids who have attended this district, and a 20-year employee who has been part of these unsuccessful attempts, it's extremely frustrating. Recently, we've done some good work around K-12 arts, health, and PE. We're off to a good start in ELA, but I can confidently tell you, as the person who's the head of the science and technology program at the high school, that our math, social studies, and science curricula are disjointed and unorganized. They need a lot of work, and they need direction from the people in charge to see it all the way through. Currently, we lack the alignment or the accountability necessary to identify and target the academic gaps that normally exist, and now there's more due to the loss of learning in the pandemic. If we want people to use actual civic knowledge, science, numbers, data to make decisions, we ought to have a plan for the scope and sequence of how we're going to teach it here in MSAD 52. The Atlas program that we're moving towards is going to be a great program to jumpstart this work, and Teresa's identified a lot of work that needs to be done in a lot of different areas. But that program and that one person, regardless of their greatness, is not enough, even with some well-intended teachers willing to help. It's going to take a well-coordinated effort from all of us, and it won't happen until we shift our time and our energies a bit. As I continue to see these meetings, it becomes disappointing to see the anger and the accusations that come up here, the arguments that we have over policy about masking, library books, the lack of trust in administration to provide professional development, or how to fight the coercive efforts of our state and federal government. I know these things are popular to argue about right now, and they're right in the forefront of our media, but I'd like to focus on a well-coordinated effort to educate our children. I implore you guys to give that the attention it deserves. I definitely don't feel good about the last meeting when I hear that the Curriculum Policy Committee might only be able to work on the book policy for the time being, and I question whether or not that's the best use of our resources. I wonder if it means we'll have to re-challenge the books that we're currently working on now, and when those are finally done, if we're going to repeat that process for books that involve race. The time that we spend on this and the extra money we're spending on the legal consult does not seem worth it. In my opinion, and I'm not saying that we shouldn't be prudent about books, it's an important part of this process, and we should have a solid way to go about it. But it's taken a lot of our time and a lot of our money. There's got to be a better way to do it than this.
We're at 3 minutes now.
Thank you.
Any other folks who are interested in speaking? If not, we'll move on in our agenda. Brings us to communications.
So we have Jessica Irving, who's a first grade teacher at Turner Primary, is resigning at the end of the year, end of the school year. And that's it. That's what I got.
Thank you. That brings us to adjustments to the agenda.
Yes, sorry. We are removing item 9.5 because it's Teresa discovered an error, I think, so it's going to go back to curriculum policy for another review. So we'll come back at the next meeting. Or did you guys?
Yes.
This is the policy around class size.
It will be back. It will be back for a first reading.
So it'll come back for first reading. We
Yep.
found an error after the last meeting, so it's going to come back for first reading with the corrections at the next meeting. And we do not need an executive session around negotiations, do we?
I didn't know if there was information we wanted to share, but if you don't think so, then.
I think we're okay if we go next week.
Okay.
So I would like to follow up on our process and discussion last time around adjustments to the agenda, since I felt like there was some homework that needed to be done after our consideration of an ongoing consideration, I think, of the level of formality that we utilize in these meetings as, to be honest, as we consider a few more contentious things than we might have in years past. There's certainly advice that suggests that higher degrees of formality are certainly advantageous to all of us. As I indicated last time, my impression of our rules of operation and Robert's rules required a 2/3 vote for an agenda change. that 2/3 vote is required when we encounter a scenario where action had been taken to approve an agenda. Obviously, that's not our process. Our agendas are circulated beforehand, and that circulation does not imply the level of formality that an actual vote to approve would involve. So, and interestingly enough, we actually have board policy BEDD that talks about rules of order and has BEDDR where item A, the agenda prepared in accordance with board policy shall govern the order of proceedings unless modified by majority vote or the unanimous consent of the board. So my apologies certainly for not having a correct impression of that, and as moving forward, obviously that is the process that should govern any offered adjustments to the agenda if board members wish to move in that direction. So I wanted to clarify that for folks and let everyone know that that would certainly be the most appropriate process going forward. 6.1, Carrie, you covered those, correct? Thank you. That brings us to committee reports. Finance Committee, where's Crystal?
We meet next Thursday at 5:30 at the high school.
Thank you. PTV, Joe.
Yes, we met this evening. We discussed some updates to the wastewater treatment plant, rather mundane items there. And some of us were well aware as they were voting on this, but some of us were newly introduced to an agreement we had for purchasing solar credits and this net energy billing agreement that we had. So there was a nice discussion about that, and I'm sure that will continue. We reviewed some of the highlights of the kickoff meeting with EEI on the energy audit that is occurring around the district, and there will be certainly many more discussions to come with EEI. And we also talked more about lead level testing in the water around the schools. I'm happy to report that the primary school here in Turner, a number of fixtures were replaced, focused particularly on the drinking water supply, and we can say that those tests passed. So the Turner Primary School now, the drinking water supply does not have elevated lead testing. We were going to move on to replace similarly some of these fixtures in the elementary school over April vacation. Leeds Elementary will follow. The biggest goal we have here is really solving this problem before the beginning of the next school year, and we seem to be well on our way there. There may be some hiccups, maybe the fixtures don't fix every problem, but it seems to be working so far at the primary school.
And the next meeting for PTV is May 4th, correct?
Correct.
Curriculum policy, Christine.
Yeah, we met tonight, and our next meeting's May 4th. We had a brief curriculum update where we did discuss, several educators had, reached out to us wanting to cover curriculum a little more, so we completely agree. We understand the importance and we appreciate them reaching out. And so Teresa gave us some updates on where they are on updating curriculum. It looks like she said, what did you say, which ones were moving forward at the highest rate, maybe crossing the finish line sooner than the others?
Science, social studies, visual and performing arts, and health and PE.
Yep. So we're hoping to get updates on those particular ones. And then we moved on, reviewed some policies, and we'll send the K through 12 class sizes back to you guys for a first reading. And that was it.
7.4, Tri-Town Education Association Teachers Negotiations. Jessica.
We did meet on Tuesday, our full negotiations team with TTEA team. And I think it went well. We had some good agreements on some language, and looking forward to our next meeting.
Well, lots of full participation.
Yeah. Yep. And there was pizza.
And there was pizza. Thank you.
Thank you. Student Representatives Report.
Earlier this week on
Tuesday, a group of students from the high school went to the Maine State Marathon.
How'd it go?
Good win.
Okay. Enough said.
Thank you. It all seems like a big letdown after Winter Carnival, doesn't it? Brings us to administrative reports. Parker is our first.
Good evening. Just would like to highlight a few events and activities at Green Central School. We have our pre-K to 2 concert coming up. That's April 27th at 5:45 p.m. We have our band and chorus spring concert. That's May 16th at 5:30 p.m. Oh, pardon me, 5:45 is the first one, 5:30 is the second. Wanted to recognize Derek Jordan and Tammy Scott. There are 2 PE teachers. They are coordinating the Kids Heart Challenge, also known as Jump Rope for Heart, and that's to benefit the American Heart Association. We're actually going to do that tomorrow. And we have different blocks for our students to do their jump roping. It's been great to walk into the PE classes and see the littles trying to kind of get the pattern down for jump roping. That they're doing remarkably. So we wish everybody good luck on that. Also wanted to point out that our after-school art club continues into April. We currently have 25 4th, 5th, and 6th graders staying after school. We had to limit it just because of the size of the art room. We had approximately 40 or so that were very interested. So, and I talked with Ms. Laura Howe, our art teacher. I told her I was going to share that the students were making paper mache animal sculptures, shrinky art, pins and magnets, and multimedia collages. Apparently next week, hope for good weather, because they're going to go outside to create art inspired by nature. So very, very excited to see that. Also wanted to point out and thank everyone, thanks to increased availability of substitute teachers, the need for our intervention and Title I staff members to cover classrooms has decreased significantly. And in the month of March, only required 15.5 hours. So that is down a lot. So that's allowed these staff members to really focus on their tasks in their job description and provide that targeted instruction and support for students with a variety of needs. So thank you for that. Any questions?
Any questions?
Thank you.
7.6.2, Rebecca?
So I've shared some highlights within my board report. I don't want to see them under PES, so I do want to share that the director and, well, I am the director, but the director and the assistant director, who are both special ed teachers and social workers, have been invited to TES, to their job fair, and we're going to start recruiting early for our elementary students, for special education teachers and social workers. And then we also have little takeaways that we have purchased from Amazon, so we're hoping that students will walk away with inspirational pencils and pencil grasps. Are there any questions?
I'm glad you're thinking the same thing. We're sending somebody from the hospital. Also, we are also recruiting for nurses and PTs at a very young age.
Anybody else have a question?
I'd like to just point out, and you didn't say this, Rebecca, but Rebecca's partnered with USM, a school psychologist, and we have an intern working with us, and our hope is that that will then turn into an employee. So I just want to say thank you to Rebecca for working on that and getting ahead of it and having somebody on board helping.
Brings us to in-person time.
So tomorrow we're doing our 3rd school-wide reward. So in the morning, all the kids have signed up to do one special activity. So there's a jewelry activity, yoga. There's about 35, not 35. There's a lot of activities happening in the morning. So the kids will all get to do something special, which will be exciting. They all earned for their behaviors, which is nice. And then, like Rebecca was saying, next week is our wellness week. And the staff and I recently watched a video talk. It was like a wellness retreat that an adult went to, and all of the themes were like depression and anxiety and things that are hard, right? So we tried to treat the Wellness Week a little bit different. So focused on, instead of focusing on issues, focusing on goal-oriented things. So we have our career fair is on Monday. We do have a huge variety, including, like you said, we have physical therapy, we have a tattoo artist, we have someone coming to talk about farming. We have CMCC coming, and they're bringing their Mustang, so the kids can check out the car, which is really neat. So it's a pretty small fair, but it should be a lot of fun, I hope. And then on Tuesday, we have a game warden coming to do an assembly with kids, and every day has a theme, so we can get dressed up every day, which is fun too. Wednesday, we have an assembly on anti-bullying. Thursday, we're doing a one book, one school kind of thing, and author Emily Coy is coming. And for 5th and 6th graders, she and the artist are going to be talking about careers in illustration and writing and that kind of thing. And for 3rd and 4th graders, it's more about friendship and kindness, because her books are about friendship and kindness. So it's pretty neat. And then Friday is movie and recess, but that is, kids really like that, so they're happy with that. And then one other celebration is right after vacation, we're starting our running club back up. We had that in the fall. In the fall, it was only 5th and 6th grade. We opened it up to all students, and we actually had to close it because I think we're at 66 kids, which is about a third of a little less than a third. And we have about 12 staff now who will be helping out with it. So that should be fun.
Any questions? Brings us to 7.7, Assistant Superintendent's Report. Teresa.
I think I will just report that I have been working with teachers in various schools around curriculum, and it is really difficult work, but I'm really energized by the enthusiasm of the teachers. So that's my report.
Any questions? I'll turn it over to Carrie.
So I actually have quite a bit to report this week, as opposed to last week was short. So we did have a pretty serious bus accident on Monday, but I just want to say thank you to Jana Mates, who literally just happened to be there. She immediately got out of her car to assist. Chip Gilbert, who's one of the transportation, what's the title? Specialist? Okay, sorry. Transportation specialist. He was there very quickly. Jana called me. I happened to be in the office, so I walked over, and then Dave Coburn came, and all of them just did such a great job of making sure kids were okay, making sure that the driver was okay, the driver of the very large Mack truck was okay, and the Turner Rescue and the Sheriff's Department were awesome. So everything turned out great in what could have been a really very, very serious incident. So so I've started presenting on the proposed budget, now accepted budget by the board. I presented yesterday. I was able to go, Evan and the staff at the high school let me steal some of their time to talk about the budget there. And then I went to Green Central School right after that, shared the same information with that staff. You know, the question I ask is how many of you live in this district, and more than half, of course, more than half the hands go up, which I think at the high school I commented that's just how we do things in Maine. We kind of we stick near where we grew up. So it's, and then I also, last night, so yesterday was a big day, and then at the end of the day, I participated remotely with the Leeds PTC committee and presented with them as well, and got some really good ideas for how to communicate. So I'm going to keep rolling through faculty meetings and as many parent committee meetings. And then I know we've got the Tri-Town Selectmen meeting on April 18th. I'm pretty sure there's at least 3 or 4 of you who are going to be there, so thank you very much, to try and just continuously communicate about the budget. So that process has begun. The Teacher Evaluation Steering Committee, we started our work back in the fall. We completed our work on Tuesday, just minutes before the negotiations meeting started. We will be sharing this with teachers in the next several weeks to just make sure they're aware of the committee's work. I'd like to thank the following staff members for their hard work. Middle school principal Jana Mates, middle school teacher Pam Morin, Leeds teachers Jennifer Groover and Lori Slovak, Green teacher Nancy Ellis, Turner primary teachers Cheryl Woodard, and the instructional coach Elaine Gammon, and then high school teacher Nicole Marcotte and librarian Judith Lashman. We were a very good cohesive team and got a very huge job done. So we will have that to the board in June for your final approval. I want to say thank you to Kyle for putting on my radar concerns that he had heard from community members about a book called Let's Talk About It that was in the library. We did an internal review. The staff at the high school did an internal review in accordance with board policy IJJ, and we decided that the book should be removed from the library. So I really want to thank him and appreciate the conversation and the opportunity to work together. I also wanted to say that since February 14th, we've received 8 freedom of access requests, FOA requests from the district. We're working hard to meet these requests while also completing all the other necessary tasks in the daily operation of the district. The last thing is it's a housekeeping issue. I'd asked board members to let me know if they could attend on May 25th, which was the meeting postponed from the 18th. I have, just to make sure we have a quorum, I have a yes from Brooke, Jamie, and Jessica. But I'm just curious if the rest of you are able to make the 25th as opposed to the 18th. Thank you. Crystal, if you know, and if not, please. Joe, yes, you're good. Okay. Kyle, you're good. Thank you. So we have to change the meeting from the 18th to the 25th because both Teresa and I have a conflict. I had reported that in my meeting last week and then had sent an email on Friday looking for. Are you sure you're okay? You can tell me tomorrow if you want to think about it. All right, Tammy, did you say?
I don't know yet.
Oh, because
I'm pending.
Fair enough. I will get back to you then. Okay, thank you. Appreciate that. I am done.
Any questions for? No? No? Jessica?
I just want to go back to the bus accident. So is the bus offline? Do we have a plan for, do we have a spare bus that we?
Yes, yeah, I mean, the route is continuing to run. The bus is definitely, it had to be towed. So it's definitely online and we're in the process of working with, I don't know if you have updates from the insurance company. We've submitted all the documentation.
We haven't yet heard back from our adjuster. I did speak to MSAD earlier today and let them know that I had concern that we hadn't heard back from them yet, and they are working on connecting with the adjuster to get it looked at and reviewed on what needs to happen.
And this investigations are ongoing. So.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Anything else? Thank you. Old business, we don't actually have any of this evening. So that brings us to new business. Item 9.1, take a motion for approval of a $700 donation to Trickles from the Turner Public Library to build a new golf course.
So moved.
Joe?
I'll second.
Kyle? Discussion on this one. Seeing none? All in favor? Tammy? Yes.
I want to take just a minute, make sure I understand what has been written here. Yes, definitely. And definitely bring your children during April vacation to that. Sorry.
That's okay. On this one. No, all those in favor? Brings us to first reading and acceptance of Curriculum and Policy Committee recommended revised policy GCI, and that is professional staff development opportunities. Do a motion on this one.
So moved.
Jimmy and Crystal were
I'll second.
discussion on this one. Any discussion? No?
So I have a question for the superintendent. Is the superintendent aware that this policy, the author of this policy, did not include the wording from, I'm sorry, I'm blanking out on the other policy. IMB, thank you. Because she thought that the teachers would effectively be students and therefore would receive all of the protections and rights in that policy. You objected to that in the policy that I drafted. I don't see any objections on this one, so I just want to understand how that all is.
I'm not sure I really, I'm not really sure I understand the question. Yeah.
All right. May I?
I was simply recognizing.
Oh, thank you. So, in the policy that I proposed, I took language from IMB, I believe it was, to say that professional development on sensitive or controversial issues shall be objective and scholarly and so on. Students have the right to blah, 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 right? And you objected to that. There was you provided a very lengthy critique of my proposed policy. And one of the critiques was that this policy, IMB, was completely incompatible with professional development opportunities. Now, the author of the policies in front of us tonight basically said she did not include that in her policy that the committee has put forward before this board, because she's saying that the teachers who are attending professional development are essentially students for the purpose of that professional development. And therefore, all of IMB applies to them, and obviously to the entire professional development. So my question to you is, if you objected to that in my policy that I proposed, do you object to it in this policy?
So honestly, I would defer to the work that the committee did. My understanding is that the committee had these conversations and came with a recommendation, and so I trust that recommendation. I know Teresa was part of that conversation, as well as Tammy and Jamie, so.
Other discussion?
I can try to speak to that. Whereas I made some of the revisions. I wanted to truly.
Just to clarify,
Yes.
the policy that's before us for action this evening is the result of the committee's work.
Yes,
correct?
yes. And some suggestions that I made.
But the committee.
But the committee recommended it,
The
yes,
final.
okay.
Is that
simply what
clear?
I want to make.
Yeah, can I speak to that, Tammy?
Jamie.
Okay. So not only were the proposals made during committee, but those proposals were also reviewed by MSMA, by Charlotte Bates, Steve Bailey, and legal. And I feel confident in the legality and of all of them, of everything that we are recommending we adopt as a board. So it was, we put a lot of work into it during the policy meeting, and this is a solid policy.
And I think maybe to address what Anthony is talking about, we did the policy, so 2 policies came to curriculum and policy, and both of those were reviewed by Maine School Management, and Carrie and I actually met with them because it was easier to have a meeting. And the idea that policy IMB would be used, I think that's the correct one. That's not the intent. Policy IMB ensures that a student's right to engage in learning about controversial topics. That we were told not to put those in because there's a separate policy. I think during the committee meeting, we did talk about how if someone is at a training, they might be learning and they could be considered a student at that time because they're learning. But ultimately, the committee did not put that in, and that's the policy. The policy that you see in the board packet is the one that was voted on. It was not a unanimous vote, but it was voted on.
Further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of the policy? Those opposed? Did you want that?
Actually, no, I'm sorry. I was considering an amendment to the policy. So if you allow, I know that the yes votes have already been counted.
What's the amendment?
So I would move that that be spelled out in the policy because people will leave. We will all eventually rotate off of this board. People will retire. And if that mention is not in the policy, it would be all too easily forgotten. So I would move that the policy be amended to read, the policy IMB will apply to teachers for the purpose of professional development.
Do you have a second for the amendment? Absent a second, the amendment died. We'll rewind a couple minutes and go back to all those in favor of the policy. Those opposed? One opposed? That brings us to 9.3. 9.3 is the second reading and adoption of curriculum and policy committee recommended revised policy JFAA, and that is admission of resident students in MSAD 52. Do you have a motion on that one? Jamie? Do you have a second? Jessica? Discussion on this one? Seeing none, all those in favor? 9.4, second reading and adoption of curriculum and policy committee recommended revised policy JFAB, and that is admission of non-resident students. Is there a motion on that? Crystal, do you have a second?
Second.
Jamie. Discussion on this one? Seeing none, all those in favor? 9.5 is an adjustment removed. That brings us to 9.6. Second reading and adoption of curriculum and policy committee recommended revised policy IKB, and that's the policy on homework. Do you have a motion on this one? Crystal, do you have a second?
Second.
Jamie. And discussion on this one. Seeing none, all those in favor? Unanimous. That brings us to 9.7. So 9.7 is approval of school board organizational meeting to be held on April 27th, 2023 at 6:30 at the Tripp Middle School Media Center. Do you have a motion on that one?
So moved.
Jessica? Do you have a second? Joe, second. For discussion purposes, as folks are aware, I elected not to run again for this particular seat. So after the Turner Town meeting on April 15th, folks will have a new representative from the town of Turner, so we need to reshuffle the various offices. Any other discussion? All those in favor of the organization meeting on April 27th?
Does that mean everyone can make it? Maybe clarify that just means everyone can be there. And once Tammy, you're clear that you're going to be back. Can I just have people check just to be sure that we can, because we need a quorum to be able to do this.
Kyle, yeah.
We have a regular scheduled meeting at 5:30.
No, there was not supposed to be a meeting on the 27th.
Okay.
But you had it in your
I have
calendar,
my
so you
calendar,
were going
so
to
I'm
be
ready.
there?
I'm
So
ready.
you're all set?
Yeah.
You're all set. Okay. I mean, this will be the only agenda item, will be the organizational meeting, so it's not, we're not going to put other things on there, just so you know. It will purely be for the purposes of the organization. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Tammy will wait on you. Anthony, do you know yet?
I'll be there.
Okay. And whoever it is, let's go from there. Thank you all.
Thanks, everybody. I would entertain a motion to adjourn. Kyle.
Quick draw.
All those in favor? That's a unanimous.